Each year on November 9th, the church celebrates the feast of the dedication of the Lateran Basilica. Now, if you're not sure what the Lateran Basilica is, that's all right. This feast only falls on Sunday occasionally, so most of us probably haven't celebrated this feast day before, and most of us have probably never been to the Lateran Basilica before. The Lateran Basilica of St. John is one of the four major basilicas in Rome. It's the oldest and the most important. It was dedicated by Pope Sylvester in 324 AD. It's the cathedral of the Diocese of Rome, and so it means it's the church of the Pope, and it's the mother church of all the churches across the world. And so when a church is dedicated or consecrated or blessed, then it becomes this place that's reserved for the worship of God. And it shouldn't be too surprising that we would celebrate the dedication of a church building, and this one representing the entire church, because our own church buildings are so important to us, as places where we meet the Lord, where so many of those moments of encounter with Jesus, especially in the sacraments, occur in our lives. Now, our own Cathedral of St. Cecilia's in Omaha was consecrated April 9th, 1959. This church, Holy Trinity, was blessed November 5th of 1967. St. Michael's was blessed October 3rd, 1951. And I could go through all of the other churches too, but you won't remember all those dates. So they're all on the website of our family of parishes if you want to see any of those other dates on there. Last year, for this feast day, when Pope Francis was still alive, he invited the church on this date in all subsequent years to celebrate another local aspect of our faith, since, Lateran Basilica might seem far away for us. So he invited us on this day to remember those people whose causes for canonization have been opened, but who have not yet been blessed or beatified or canonized. So these are the individuals that they're not yet declared to be saints or blesseds, but that they may just be venerables or declared servant of God. And he said this is to honor those figures of holiness and to perpetuate the memory of the extraordinary disciples of Christ who are still our sure guides today, protecting and supporting us. So here in our Archdiocese of Omaha, the cause for canonization has been opened up for one person. That is servant of God, Father Edward J. Flanagan. Father Flanagan, he lived from 1886 to 1948. Edward, or Eddie, as he was called. He was the eighth of 11 children. He was born into a hard-working family in Ireland. The Flanagans were very devout. They often prayed the rosary together, and Eddie could often be found praying the rosary by himself when he was out taking care of the cattle or looking for one of the family's lost sheep. Edward learned from his father the fundamental rule of life, prayer and work. Edward, he then moved to the United States in 1904, and he came here to Nebraska in 1907. He lived with his older brother, Father Patrick Flanagan, who was also a priest for our archdiocese. Father Edward was ordained for our diocese after his brother in 1912. And he served the parish of St. Patrick's in O'Neill, and then back in Omaha, St. Patrick's there in Omaha. He wrote later that, I presume that what caused me to become a priest was because I wanted to help people spiritually. I wanted to teach people, and it was that desire that took hold of me, and I never had any desire at any other time in my life. And help people he did. In 1913, a tornado ravaged the city of Omaha, and it killed 155 people and left many people homeless. And Father Flanagan began ministering to their needs. And this was followed up, as his outreach continued, in finding shelter and food for seasonal workers after a drought put them all out of work. As Father Flanagan listened to stories of thousands of men, many of them who had gotten into some rough things since they were out of work, He heard over and over again from them, "It's too late for me now, Father. If only somebody had helped me when I was a boy." So Father Flanagan, he later wrote, he said, "I realized that the neglected boys was what caused men to go bad." And so in 1917, Father Flanagan began to work with boys that were in the juvenile justice system. He met with them, helped try to establish a healthy routine for them. As he put it, to keep their bodies and their souls together. So these boys often came from broken homes or neglectful parents. Father Flanagan said, I studied the program of our courts dealing with delinquents. I felt that there must be another way, the way of love and kindness, of training and teaching, of learning to do by doing, so that they could develop into worthwhile citizens." So he started with just 5 boys initially, but it grew out into over 150 boys with the help of the Notre Dame sisters and some well-trained teachers. In 1921, 5 buildings were built on Overlook Farm, which is today Boys Town. There were some people at the time who criticized Father Flanagan for taking in even criminals, they said. But Father Flanagan said, "I don't know of any other way whereby I could save a child from the life of crime in the penitentiary, other than to offer the facilities of my home. And if it's going to hurt the good name of my home, then I suppose my home will suffer, for it will suffer for the same cause for which Christ suffered." Father Flanagan was convinced that a boy given the proper guidance and direction, kept busy and constructively occupied during leisure or free time, will prove my statement that there is no such thing as a bad boy. He also wrote that without God in the beginning, there can only be confusion at the end. And so his mission that he had was sustained by his prayer. In addition to praying his daily office, Father Flanagan had a particular devotion to our Blessed Mother, praying the Rosary every day. And no one could seem to beat him down to the chapel in the morning. He's always the first one there. He encouraged all of his boys to pray. Every boy, he said, should pray. How he prays is up to them. Father Flanagan was named even to a national panel to study the problems of juvenile delinquency by the U.S. Attorney General at the time, and he was asked by President Truman to travel to Austria and Germany to help construct a program for many of the children who'd been orphaned there after the years of war. But it was during that tour over there that Father Flanagan suffered a heart attack, and he died in 1948. But Father Flanagan once said that the work will continue, you see, whether I'm there or not, because it's God's work. It's not mine. And today, the mission of Father Flanagan's has grown into Boys Town program locations in 10 states and Washington, D.C., 2 hospitals, a national training center, a national hotline, and Boys Town provides direct and indirect care for 1.4 million youth and families each year. Father Flanagan's cause for sainthood was opened by our archdiocese in 2012, and the process has been sent to Rome for an exhaustive review that they go through in this process. If he's found worthy of greater praise within the church, his heroic virtue will be recognized with the title of venerable. Then a miracle attributed to his intercession needs to be proved before his beatification. And then a second miracle attributed to his intercession has to happen after the beatification before he can be canonized saint. Since Father Flanagan is not yet beatified or canonized, the church doesn't offer public prayers asking for his intercession, but individually, each of you are free, and you are indeed encouraged by the church to seek out Father Flanagan's intercession. In the bulletin for this weekend, I have some more information about Father Flanagan there, as well as a holy card you can cut out of the bulletin. It has a prayer on it that you can use to ask for his intercession. You're encouraged to even pray for miraculous a medical cure for someone who is in need of that, because if a healing should occur through his intercession, then that can be communicated to the Archbishop or the Father Flanagan League. They have a website that I have there in the bulletin. And that could potentially be used to further along his process of canonization. Proving that a cure defies natural explanation, it's a difficult process involving the input of medical professionals and theological commission to make sure that it was indeed because of the intercession of Father Flanagan. But it's a process that's worth going through, not just so that, maybe we can have a saint from our own archdiocese, but also so that the example of Father Flanagan may be made known and imitated more widely. On this feast day of the dedicating of the Lateran Basilica, we're reminded by St. Paul in the second reading that each of you, the people of God, you are God's building that's built upon the foundation of Jesus Christ. And Father Flanagan's life reminds us that this kind of holiness can be achieved by any one of us living in our own time and in our own place here in Nebraska. You are the temple of God. The Spirit of God dwells in you. Strive to be a saint.